Welcome to What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com, and thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Bishop Bowser, and we have an exciting show for you today, and everyone should be listening. So right now, I want you to text or call 7 people and tell them to tune in to this show. This morning, we have a good one because we have with us Reverend Dennis Malone, with All of Us or None. And our topic for this morning is the beginning of the end of for-profit prisons and mass incarceration. And so if you want to call into this show, you can call in and join the conversation at 619-919-4745. Again, if you want to call into this show, 619-919-4745. So I have there was a report that came out this week in regards to for-profit prisons, and the federal government, the Justice Department, is going to put an end to it, or at least they say they are. So Matt Zapotowski and Chica Harlem on August 18th in the Washington Post wrote about the Justice Department and says it will end use of private prisons. Now, the Justice Department plans to end its use of private prisons after officials concluded that facilities are both less safe and less effective at providing correctional services than those run by the government. Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates announced the decision on Thursday in a memo that instructs officials to either decline to renew the contracts for private prison operators while they expire or substantially reduce the contract scope. The goal, Yates wrote, is reducing and ultimately ending our use of privately operated prisons. They simply do not provide the same level of correctional services, programs, and resources. They do not save substantially on costs, and as noted in a recent report by the Department's Office of Inspector General, they do not maintain the same level of safety and security, Yates wrote. While experts said the directive is significant, privately run federal prisons house only a fraction of the overall population of inmates. The vast majority of the incarcerated in America are housed in state prisons rather than federal ones, and Yates' memo does not apply to any of those, even the ones that are privately run. So, nor does it apply to Immigration and Customs Enforcement and U.S. Marshal Services detainees, who are technically in the federal system but not under the purview of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. The directive is instead limited to the 13 privately run facilities housing a little more than 22,000 inmates in the Federal Bureau of Prisons systems. The facilities were meant mainly to house inmates who are mostly low security, criminal aliens, if that's what you want to call it, men with 90 months or less time remaining on their sentences, according to a recent Department of Justice Inspector General report. Yates said that the U.S. Department of Justice would review the contracts for those facilities as they come up for renewal, as all would do in the next 5 years. She said they would then be reduced or allowed to expire, though none would be terminated prematurely. Still, the memo could spark broader change in the prison system, some believe. This is a huge deal. It is historic and groundbreaking, said David Fati, director of the ACLU National Prison Project. For the last 35 years, the use of private prisons in this country has crept ever upward, and this is a startling and major reversal of that trend, and one that we hope will be followed by others. The Justice Department's Inspector General last week released a critical report concluding that privately operated facilities incur more safety and security incidents than those run by the Federal Bureau of Prisons. The private facilities, for example, had high rates of assaults, both by inmates on other inmates and by inmates on staff, and had 8 times as many contraband cell phones confiscated each year on average, according to the report. Disturbances in the facilities, the report said, led in recent years to extensive property damage, bodily injury, and the death of correctional officers. The report listed several examples of mayhem at private facilities, including a May 2012 riot at the Adams County Correctional Center in Mississippi, in which 20 people were injured and a correctional officer killed. That incident, according to the report, involved 250 inmates who were upset about low-quality food and medical care. Yates noted that the Bureau of Prisons was already taking steps to make her order a reality. 3 weeks ago, she wrote, the Bureau declined to renew a contract for 1,200 beds in the Cibola County Correctional Center in New Mexico. According to a local TV station, the county sheriff said the facility's closure would have a negative impact on the community. Yates wrote that the Bureau also would amend a solicitation for a 10,800 bed contract to one for a maximum 3,600 bed contract. That, Yates wrote, would allow the Bureau of Prisons over the next year to discontinue housing inmates in at least 3 private prisons, and by May 1st, 2017, the total private prison population would stand at less than 14,200 inmates. She said it was hard to know precisely when all the privately run facilities would no longer have federal inmates, though she noted that 14,200 was less than half the inmates they held at their apex 3 years ago, and a figure she said indicated the department was well on their way to ultimately eliminating the use of private prisons entirely. So now, a 2015 University of Wisconsin study examined data from private prisons in Mississippi between 1996 and 2004. And here's what they said. Private prisons are paid for occupied beds, which is an incentive to extend inmates' time in prison. Indeed, the study found that inmates in Mississippi's for-profit prisons served as many as 2 to 3 more months behind bars than those housed in public prisons. The extra time amounted to about $3,000 per prisoner. Prison administrators, the study found, use conduct violations to increase time served. Inmates in private prisons receive twice as many infractions as those in public prisons. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, the United States has just 5% of the world's population, but warehoused more than 20% of the world's prisoners. From 1978 to 2014, America's prison population skyrocketed 408%. Now, money is a huge reason we have so many prisoners. And there are several corporations that make huge profits off of prisons. And it costs an average of $23,876 annually to house a state prisoner for a year. To save money, cash-strapped states, also known us, the taxpayer, pay companies to deal with their prisoners. And these companies make money. Now, there are 6 companies, and I'm gonna name them for you. One is 6 companies and industries making profit off of incarceration, and one of them is called Global Tel Link. Now, 57% of state prisoners use their services, which deals with telephones, and they charge up to $17 for a 15-minute phone call. And we know that the way, if prisoners are going to really get connected back to the community, to their families, and get out, and we prevent recidivism, and also not get into trouble in prison, studies have found that those prisoners that are connected to family members and communication with them they do their time more smoother and stay out of trouble. And when they get out, they stay out. And so this makes it difficult for folks that are strapped for money to be able to connect with family members. But this is the way the system is set up, and family members can't even afford to connect with their family because of this Global Tel Link. And then you have another one called Corizon, which makes $1.4 billion a year providing health care in over 530 correctional facilities in 28 states. And this service, a lot of times they kind of like cut corners in healthcare. And so in prisons, a lot of prison inmates get low quality health care because they're trying to cut corners to save money, because it's all about a profit and it's not about the people. Thank you. And so another one, the third one, is the bail industry, right? When someone is arrested and arraigned, it can be weeks or even months until their trial date is set. Bail is the most used of the options that judges have to incentivize defendants to return to court for their trial. If the defendant cannot afford to post bail, they must either use a bail bond service or stay in jail to await their trial. America and the Philippines are the only countries in the world that use the bail bond system. In most countries, bail bonds would be considered illegal, tampering with justice. This is because bail bond agencies are private companies with a say in whether or not people who are presumed innocent pre-trial go to jail. Bail bondsmen can refuse service to whomever they like and charge non-refundable fees, which means the poor people are more likely to have to spend time in jail before the guilt or innocence is even determined. For example, let's say that two people, one rich, one poor, are accused of the same crime. Bail is set for $100,000 for each of them. The rich person pays $100,000, gets out of jail, eventually goes to trial, is found innocent, and gets all of his $100,000 back. The poor person doesn't have $100,000, so he can either stay in jail and probably lose his job and become even poorer, or use a bail bond service. The bond service charges him a non-refundable 10% fee, so the poor person pays the bail bond service $10,000, or gets all his friends and family to help him do so, gets out of jail, eventually goes to trial, is found innocent, and has lost $10,000 that he will not get back. If someone who has used a bail bond service does not show up for trial, they can be hunted down by a bounty hunter who, with very little training required, is authorized to carry guns and pursue suspects without most of the rules that protect interaction between suspects and police. And also bail companies, they lobby for laws that encourage or forces judges to set bail for more than other options. Bail amounts have climbed over the years, and bail bonds are used in over 40% of felony cases. Number 4, the way they make money is law enforcement, and we don't talk about this today, is asset forfeiture. And to move along here, the 5th one is these private run facilities, Corrections Corporate of America, and the GEO Group private prisons. And these for-profit prisons industries is worth $70 billion, and private prison companies like CCA and the GEO Group approach cash-strapped states and offer to save them money by buying their prisons. And what they end up doing is they make these deals with them and say, hey, you got to keep our beds filled, and if they're not filled, you still got to pay for them. So, that's not saving money, so most definitely need to get rid of them. And so we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back in a couple of minutes. So stay tuned to KBLKradio.com, and we'll be right back.
R&B Plus Weekend Talk, KBLK, San Diego.
All right, welcome back to What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com. This is your host, Bishop Bowser, and thank you for staying with us. Now, we know that the war on drugs has also created ballooning prison populations by increasing arrests for petty offenses such as marijuana possession. America has the longest first-time drug offense sentences, 5 to 10 years, of developed nations. Research shows, however, that incarceration does not reduce crime because incarceration only prevents crime when a subject is locked up. Research shows further that the possibility of prison time does not deter crime before it happens and may actually encourage prisoners to commit more crimes once they are released, as recidivism rates are astonishingly high. In actuality, prison creates a cycle of crime and imprisonment in impoverished neighborhoods. So I have here as my guest today, the Reverend Dennis Malone, with All of Us or None. Welcome to What's Happening Now, and thank you for being on the show, my brother.
Thank you.
So how has things been going, man, since the last time you've been on the show?
I'm blessed, brother. You know, the criminal justice system continues to grow.
Mm-hmm.
We as a community must stand up and fight this attack on our community.
Right.
We are the ones who are being affected by mass incarceration, especially African Americans, males and females. So together, you know, we can combat this and come up with some solutions so we don't continue to lose generation after generation to mass incarceration and this ridiculous war on drugs.
Now, I want to ask you, so what do you think about this private prison thing I just read about, the issue, and the federal government pulling away from it?
I really think President Obama should take a major lead in challenging the for-profit of treating people as cattle. Anytime you put a dollar amount on a person, you're not treating them as a human being. Regardless if they're immigrants or they're U.S. citizens. It's become known that the prison industry is all about making a dollar. And we as a people should not tolerate it. I don't care if you're directly affected or indirectly affected by the incarceration. It's wrong. The federal government should be setting an example. You know, if you're going to punish someone for committing a crime, let that be the reason. Don't let making money off of that criminal act be your incentive for the mass incarceration of innocents.
Absolutely, and that's what it seems like is, you know, everything is about money. This is, you know, America's an industry itself. It's all about
it can be about money, but it can be about profit, but not on the backs of so many innocent folks. You have mothers and children in immigration detention facilities who are being charged $5,000 bail to get out of those places. They came here for asylum. Not to be incarcerated and separated from their children. I mean, you get infants in these detention facilities.
Mothers with their children and so on.
You know?
And one of the things that I found out and heard is that, you know, when you think about the immigration and people that come over here that's not documented, they normally take them and deport them back. Now, because of big business, they don't deport them back.
They deport them back.
Just put them in these prisons and keep them in for a long,
indefinitely.
long time.
They don't have a date, a court date, or nothing to look forward to. And a lot of these folks are teenagers and just already separated from their families. Scared to death. And they look at this as like a horror movie that they woke up in.
It's like, what?
You know?
I'm a kid.
And this is the United States of America we're talking about. We're not talking about some third world country.
They just don't care.
You know, we're talking about the leader of the democracy throughout the world.
That's right.
As the global example.
That's right. Now, you know, one of the things... I'm sorry, go ahead.
You know, United States is looked upon as an example on human rights and how you should be treating folks. But that image has been tarnished greatly.
Absolutely, especially through the prison system. And I know that, you know, when you look at the prison system, and especially in the black community, when you talk about the for-profit, and, you know, with 14% of this country's population, black folks are, but make up 40% of prisons in the United States. And so, you know, just like in slavery, you know, it was an economic benefit there for them. Right now, today, even in prison, is an economic benefit, especially for blacks. And like Michelle Alexander wrote about the new Jim Crow, man, we see it all the way from prisons to when they're on probation, as we talking about.
We live it. We're living this nightmare. And nothing much has changed. There was a study done that showed that just before the abolishment of slavery, 50% of African American slaves were incarcerated.
Look at that.
Then.
Wow.
And right now, 48% of African Americans today are incarcerated. So nothing much has really changed. They're still using the same system. They may have changed the labels on, you know, on the bottle, but this, you know, you still got the same ingredients. You know, so you ask African Americans, how have you been doing since slavery, since Jim Crow? And they say, we're not doing nothing. 68% of us. 68% of us living in poverty in this country. African American males
wow.
are not working.
That's high.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, you might as well be in slavery. You're not working, you're being productive, and your manhood is being challenged at every step of the way.
Absolutely.
You know,
you can't provide for your family and yourself.
And this is no accident. Believe me, my brother, this is no accident. So we got to stand up as men and fight back. Amen. We can no longer sit back in our comfort chairs and do nothing. We can no longer sit in our church houses, you know, on our knees. It's time for us to stand up as men and say, I'm going to be accounted for on this action. Today, I'm going to be heard. I'm going to let people know I'm not going to tolerate this.
Right.
San Diego's a hard city to sell that in, however.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
Because they separated us, so there's no unification.
Right.
So when you stand up, you stand alone.
Exactly. And you have so many. What I find here in the city that I love, in the county that I love, San Diego.
It's the only one you know.
All my life. Yeah.
all your life. You know.
That that division is very important, because the people need to understand that, because when you're trying to stand up for justice and for what is right, and for the community that is being over police and criminalized and folks being locked up and things like that, and leading to mass incarceration, you're trying to make a change in that, and you step out and speak out against that. Then you got people who are so-called leaders that will call these powers that be, whether it's some with the chief and police or the mayor or whatever. Well, he don't speak for us. Right. He don't speak for me. I don't agree with that.
Good old
it's
boy.
Like, well, bro, why are you doing that, man? I mean, we're trying to fight a good fight. We're trying to do a good thing in changing the system to work for our communities. And a lot of times the problem is, as you were just talking about, folks need to get up off their knees.
That's right.
Like my pastor said, once you get off your knees and pray, you need to get up and do something.
Get up and do something. And it's challenging. And I understand that. Because we know how fast it is to get locked up here in San Diego.
Oh, really?
We started young.
Yeah.
We started in our teens being locked up on a regular basis, on a weekly basis.
Absolutely.
So we know what it feels like to go to the lumber yard and get beat down before you even get arrested.
Thank you.
So we understand that.
Well, it was train tracks for me. They took me this train.
I tell you, it was no joke.
I was a juvenile the first time the police, man, they took off their badges. I'm like, this is wrong way, juvenile hall. Where they going? I'm here putting stuff on the dashboard and stuff. They taking off their badges and everything, and taking the train track. Still handcuffed.
What was more frightening and more harmful than the beatings by the police was that we had no one to tell that to.
Exactly.
We had no one that we can go back and say, I got beat, they beat me up, and what can we do about it?
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
Because for most of us, especially African Americans, we didn't have a father. I didn't have a father in the household.
Right. Right.
So all my leadership came from the streets.
Right. Yeah, I was out here on the streets on my own. My mother and them was back east somewhere.
Right. So our manhood has been challenged before we even knew what manhood was.
Exactly. So let me ask you a question. How long have you been working on dismantling this mass incarceration and this system?
I say I was released from prison in 1991. And my first job when I got out was working with the Lemon Grove Prevention Project. Ever since that, then I've been doing this. I've been back, worked inside the prison as correctional counselor, treatment counselor. Started several nonprofits regarding this issue. So for the last 1991 to today.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really appreciate about you is that, before I even start hearing the term mass incarceration or criminal justice reform, you were out there.
Reverend
Malone. Reverend Malone. We know he's gonna be talking about.
Hey, we had to change the vocabulary because I want people to know I wasn't no convict.
Right.
Formerly incarcerated. Gives me more legitimacy.
Exactly.
So we have to change the labels that they want to put on us in order for us to be heard in certain circles.
That's right.
Michelle Alexander that you mentioned. A large part of her book is written around my organization, All of Us or None.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. Yeah, I read.
And we give. I just think she's a beautiful sister.
Yes, she is.
And she's
took a lot of research and time to do that.
She was able to reach audience that we have been trying for the last 10 years to reach.
Exactly.
And she did it like overnight.
Turning things around.
Overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, do you believe that we're coming to, because you know, the title of the show is The Beginning and End, but I know that's plenty of words. Do you believe that we're coming that we're getting to a place where we're coming to the beginning of the end of mass incarceration? Where do you see us in this process?
I see nothing short of a revolution.
Okay.
Folks are not going to give up that dollar bill. They're not going down without a fight.
That's right.
So until we're able to match that power with power,
right,
then we're still going to be challenging the system.
Right.
So we got to enforce. We have to build our capacity.
Right.
To deal with this issue.
Right.
And I remember when we started out doing Ban the Box, formerly incarcerated folks talking about, man, we got to end this discrimination they got on us. We can't get no job, can't get no house, can't go to school. What are we going to do? We began to organize.
Amen.
And now we're doing it on a national level.
That's right.
September the 9th and 10th, we're having our first national conference in Oakland, California. But folks from all over the states are coming together to fight this. Because you mentioned Georgia and Mississippi and them southern states where private prisons are quite common.
Right.
Those folks are working with us. We're marching together. We were down in Salem going over the Pickman Bridge, the bridge in celebration.
Right.
So we're working together. One thing they made a mistake about, they locked up too many of us.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Thinking that we weren't coming home. Now we're coming home. Now we're working together.
Yeah.
You and I. Both of us been to the pen. Both of us understand that system. And there's masses across the state. We're organizing. And it's going to come a day when we're going to be reconciled for this harm.
Right.
America, you can't keep doing wrong think you're going to get away with it. I don't care who you are.
Amen. Now let me ask you this. What else needs to be done if we're going to really end mass incarceration? What is some of the things that need to be done to do that? Because I you know, we have our debates, you know, and stuff about ending
we're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
We're doing it, brother.
Okay.
We're informing people of the situation and letting them know that they're either going to be part of the solution or part of the problem.
Right.
So either you're going to coincide and get on board, come on board at some level,
right,
and start working with those who are organizing this effort. Because you can't do it without organization.
Right.
So we're going to prove that we are more than our number that they gave us upon release.
Amen.
And we're going to and we're doing it. You got the radio show, which is a blessing. We're able to communicate to folks who before we couldn't have nowhere reaching.
Right.
Now we're able to do that.
And get the message out.
Through literature.
Yeah.
We had an event yesterday, a resource fair on the Prop 47.
Yeah, we had them on the show last week. Yeah.
Alan Mobley at San Diego State has a program that he's running, Project Rebound, where he's taking folks directly from prison and enrolling them in San Diego State University to get their degrees.
Wow, okay.
2 brothers were out there yesterday. Both have received their masters.
Wow, awesome.
So we're educating, we're reaching higher education. Dr. Dennis Childs, UCSD, runs a program out there called SAMI, Students Against Mass Incarceration. We picketed Donovan together. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So you got the students coming on board, you got professionals on board, folks are rising up.
Amen.
You know?
Amen. So, and I know one thing we talked about one time, Prop 57, we'll get into that in a minute, but some of the props I should say, but I know, like, I agree with you on your end when we say that Prop 57 is not enough, and then on my end, I'm like, okay, we got to chip away at one of these. You said, man, but this don't do nothing. You know? So how radical can we be in regards to moving the criminal justice system to reform? I mean, should we just jump out and I know you said a revolution, but how do we?
We have our sister up in there, Dr. Shirley Wilbur. She's putting it down. And Sister Mitchell out of L.A., our assembly women. Man, they have to fight, man. They fighting for us. I mean, they are in the trenches, and they are representing those who can't get into those political circles and make those policy changes.
Right.
So we got to change the policy in the landscape in order for us to be successful. And we have people who are fighting for us that we don't even know about.
Right.
We got to give them folks some recognition. Politicians are not all bad, and we do have some forces in there. They're integrated in the system. It takes time. One thing, the Lord said, be patient. And wait a minute, I was sitting in the holding cell after being in the hole for 6 months, the Lord shined on me and said, "Son, be patient. I finally got you to sit down and shut up for a minute and listen to me." And that's when the light came on me. It was time for me to educate myself. Nobody put me in that prison but me.
Amen.
It was up for me to get out, and hopefully my son, my daughters, and folks I care about in my community don't have to go through the suffering that I had to go through, you and I had to go through.
Right.
Them days over. We can't continue. We can't go backwards.
Amen.
We're making progress. Right. It's slow, but we are getting there.
I know
and we will get there.
So what propositions are out there that we need to be looking at?
Well, there's some good ones. I think the one that we really need to look at for our nonprofits and keep us going is that workforce training grant program.
Tell us about that.
That's some money that the workforce, which runs the career centers here in San Diego, they're gonna be giving grants out to work with our population, with our people, and getting them the trainings and the reentry services that they need upon release.
And that's Prop 62?
That's under AB 2061. Yes, Assembly bill.
Okay.
Now, that bill will change the name from California Workforce Investment Board to California Workforce Development Board.
Okay.
Okay, but it also has some grants coming in under that name. We need to be sitting at the table when that money comes in, so some of the money can be put to use within our organizations.
Right.
And we can move forward with some of that. So we need to look at that one. But some of the bills, that forfeiture bill, we need to stop.
And what is that bill called? Do you know?
Let's see.
Is it Assembly bill or Senate bill?
It's a Senate bill. Let's see here. It's the
vehicle violation?
No, it's the forfeiture. But yeah, it's SB 443.
Okay.
The forfeiture or asset.
Okay, gotcha.
That's that policing for profit.
Right.
Anytime they pull you over, what I mean? When you get pulled over or they go in your house on a raid, they take all, your gold, your lax, your bins and all that, and they keep it. And that's forfeiture. They forfeiture before you even found guilty of the charge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would eliminate that.
Have a suspicion that a crime is
a suspicion, and you give up all your possessions. Wow. You may have worked for them. They don't really care. Yeah. Police are gaining a lot of money from that forfeiture, so this will eliminate that.
Right. Okay.
Which is a good thing.
Okay.
Prop for Justice That Works Act.
Prop 62.
Yeah, Prop 62. It will replace the death penalty with life in prison without the possibility of parole. So folks who are against the death penalty,
right?
Like I am definitely against the death penalty.
I am too.
So that will replace that.
Okay, cool.
The marijuana. Now this is a controversial one, but it's the Adult Marijuana Act.
Right.
And so you have to be 21, so it don't apply to youth. Right. It applies to adults. And I really believe that they should decriminalize marijuana, because that's one of the reasons why mass incarceration is what it is. Folks getting going to prison for smoking a little weed. It's ridiculous. Right. So that one, people are going to say, well, I don't want people smoking dope, and I don't want my kids getting exposed to it. Number one thing, youth today,
they're exposed to it anyway.
They are definitely exposed. Yeah. Get that just like getting a gun.
Exactly.
People,
that was back in my days too.
Yeah, now it's even more abundant.
Yeah.
Exactly. And one thing I really believe that it will help the economy, especially if they allow brothers to start selling some of them, get some of them shops set up and make some of that money. Right now, brothers are not involved in the distribution. And it's a $1 billion, $1 trillion industry. Right. We need to have some. We need to have action on that. They arrested me for selling weed. See what I'm saying? Now they're going to legalize it. Well, I'm an expert.
You gotta make the money.
Yeah, but for somebody who wants to be in that industry, I'm just saying. Exactly. We got the experience.
Right. Exactly. Hey, they legalized liquor.
Man. It's weird how things change. You know, Indians got the big gambling casinos making billions and billions of dollars.
Exactly.
Man, they just bust us for having a little crap game on the corner.
Exactly.
You know,
gambling shack and all
gambling
that.
shack. You know what I'm saying? How things change. You know. Yeah. But we need to get some of that action too. But there's a lot of interesting propositions out there. And those are just a couple. The the Incarceration Rehabilitation Act. Now, what is that? What is that? SB 1324. The bill will find and declare that an additional purpose of imprisonment for crime is rehabilitation, not just punishment.
Right.
The bill also finds that those purposes are best served by terms proportionate to the seriousness of the offense and with the correctional treatment program designed to address the particular criminogenic needs of the offenders. Alternatives to incarceration. We have to put that first on the agenda.
Right.
There's no use sending somebody to prison because they have a drug habit.
Right.
You know, they need to go to treatment in lieu of prison.
Right.
You know, so prisons won't keep trying to rake in the money off the backs of people. Give people treatment. That's what they need.
And that's what I was sharing with the Bernie Sanders group yesterday. You know, they're talking beyond Bernie. You're trying to move beyond. And one of the things I was talking about criminal justice reform. And I was sharing with them about my nephew, who is really like my son. I raised him. And he went to prison for having $40 of meth on him. And so he went to the research clinic, a research fair yesterday. Good. And so, but I was sharing that, you know, he had a drug problem, you know, and he needed treatment. Not to be locked up. It wasn't a public safety issue. It's a public health issue.
Public health. There you go.
But they locked him up, so now he has opportunity to go get that felony under Prop 47. That felony reduced to a misdemeanor. Hopefully,
praise the Lord. Good.
Yeah, that will be done.
Yeah, he took advantage of the clinic yesterday. It will get done.
Yeah, and also I need to tell you that Lynn Underwood. Lynn Sharp Underwood, I should say. Said hi.
Beautiful sister.
She said hi.
I love her.
And don't forget the great work that she's doing at Alliant International University. We have what we call a community mentor program, street outreach. We created a certification program, which is 10 weeks. And you go through that program, you get certified, you understand how to mentor, how to work on the streets, and how to deal with gangs and the violence, and mentor and help guys get connected to the resources and get their life on the right track and things like
praise
that.
The Lord.
This is a program that we started here in San Diego, and they're doing great work there, and encourage folks to get involved in that. And if you want to get involved in mentoring and street outreach work and things like that, you know, you need to get connected with this, with the Alliant International University. And so now I want to, there's the Atlantic Post. Well, I shouldn't say Atlantic Post. The Atlantic is called. The Atlantic is a media website. And they posed a question about what can the U.S. do about mass incarceration. And then the other question that they posed was, should the war on drugs take the blame? And here's what they said. While it has undoubtedly played a role in mass incarceration, talking about war on drugs, it would be a mistake to characterize the war on drugs as the sole driver, or to think that reforming drug sentencing laws alone will be sufficient to end the problem. If everyone in America currently held for drug-related offenses in state and federal prison were released, that would reduce those prison populations by approximately 20%. That would be significant in its own right, but it still wouldn't be sufficient to end mass incarceration. It's easier to win popular support for the release of nonviolent offenders as opposed to violent offenders. But if the nation wants to end mass incarceration, Americans are going to have to consider ways to cut down on the violent offender prison population as well. In 2013, roughly half of all state prisoners were incarcerated for violent crime, a percentage that suggests that any serious effort to reduce the prison population will need to grapple with violent as well as nonviolent offenders. And so I want to ask you, number one, what is your opinion on that?
My opinion is that a violent offender is probably someone who is a victim of his environment.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start uplifting the environment, uplifting the communities, and putting more resources into education and into job trainings and into lifting up the poverty rate, so that not so many people are living in poverty, under stress and under pressure, you will reduce crime significantly.
Right.
You know, give a man an opportunity to feed his family and to feed themselves. You won't have that individual going to prison.
Exactly.
You know, so we need to look at how people are living.
Right.
You know, like I mentioned earlier.
Poverty.
Yeah, African Americans, Chicanos, people are living below the poverty rate.
Right.
I mean, come on. What are you going to do? I mean, you become animals out there.
Right.
Essentially.
And that's, you know, one of the things I find even with dealing with Prop 57, which is the Public Safety Rehabilitation Act, and is removing enhancement sentences.
Right.
And for juveniles, you know, being tried as adult, it moves from prosecutors to judges.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the things that I found, the narrative that's trying to be framed, and they're using white people as victims to scare the public, in the sense of when you talk about violent offenders, you know, domestic violent folks and human traffickers and different folks are going to be released. And so, and like somebody, I believe it's my son, posed a question to me like, well, what these guys supposed to do, stay in prison the rest of their life? You know, that's what it seems like. I mean, people got to get out sooner or later, and we just trying to find a way to curtail all of the unfair injustice that have been done in the sentencing process.
Right.
You know, and it just seems to me that, you know, if we're going to really deal with mass incarceration, eventually you're going to have to start looking at the violent offenders. You know, I have homeboys that, you know, get out of prison, you know, attempt to murder, different things like that. And sometimes folks feel like some of these guys, even murder, they feel like some of these guys don't supposed to get out and be able to have a life. So you try to go get connected to a program. Oh, we don't deal with violent offenders. We don't help. Well, our funding doesn't support that. And so how do, as you said, how do folks get back in the community, get their lives together, provide for their families, and be able to break that cycle? So the cycle continues because of that. And I do agree that you have to look at everything, the person's whole background. And like I was telling the group yesterday is that, you know, I was a violent person, but, you know, God changed me. My life, I changed. And so we got to believe in people and that they can change and so on. So I believe that even violent offenders and people that can change. I got homeboys that have been gone 30-something years and 20-something, that they have changed their lives around.
Right.
You know, and they're not looking at life without parole. So there should be some kind of opportunities there for them to be able to be released and get back into society. You
know, Bishop, this is going to come a time when folks are really going to get serious regarding the criminal justice system and abolish it.
Right.
It is absolutely ridiculous to think that the only people who deserve a chance at reentry or rehabilitation are the nonviolent offenders. I mean, that's not even putting a Band-Aid on the situation. That's like treating people as complete idiots. We know that in order for us to re-enter this society once we've been incarcerated and to be productive, it's not so much rehabilitating oneself, because when you start looking at it from that perspective, it's like I'm a failure. You know, that's one thing that incarceration has succeeded in doing. It puts us in a frame of mind that we're less than a man or a woman or a mother or a father. We don't belong in society. We become a victim of the number that they place on our back. You see what I'm saying? And we come home with that D number, that C number, whatever number label they want to put on you. So you're subhuman. And that's why so many people get out of prison and they have no identity, because they're so confused by what incarceration does to a person. It's not like these people are coming out totally sane. You know, because you're in an insane world.
Now let me ask you a question on that. What are the best ways to reduce the prison population made up of violent offenders in the U.S.? That's
what I'm saying. You know, you were no more violent than the next man in line. You know what I mean? But they put that label on you that you're a violent person, and therefore they're not willing to help you. You know? And when we look at society to be our healers, we're in trouble.
Right.
We're in trouble. Where have our churches gone? Where have our ministers gone?
Now we're talking about that public support.
I mean, we have to have family support, and and community support to lift us up and let us know.
But they buy into that narrative, right?
They buy into the narrative.
And this person bought.
That's right.
Some people, probably do nothing.
I mean, you got 1.1% of people, I think, who are maybe have mental health issues that's never been addressed.
Exactly.
God don't make no mistakes, man.
Thank you. And
we are all children of God.
Amen.
And we need to get to the point of a moral and spiritual issues in dealing with people.
Right.
And don't let man put a label on you because you are God's child. And God loves you.
Right. The sad thing is that, we say this country is 137, might be even higher now, 136 million people are saying they're born again believers.
Yes.
And then yet we have a system like this and we have a country like this.
Religious institutions and your belief in God are two separate things. And believe in the Father. So that's right. You got a lot of institutions in this country. It's founded on a million of them. I'm talking about relationship of brotherhood. Like we have a kinship, you and I.
Right, exactly.
We know I got your back, I know you got my back. That can't be separated. You see what I'm saying? So that's the type of relationship I'm talking about when we're dealing with our people. Right. And don't let society and the government separate us by saying he's violent and he's non-violent, and therefore we're going to work with this guy, we're not going to work with that guy. That's not how it goes, man.
Exactly.
And we can't look for the government to solve our problems and our issues, man. We got to handle that ourselves. You know what I mean? So we can combat that. But you are right for recognizing it. That's exactly what's going on. They're not giving no assistance to anybody that they deem violent.
Right. So should the definition be revisited when you talk about nonviolent offenders?
I don't claim the label, you know what I mean? but they put that on there. I don't claim to be no convict. Like I was saying earlier. You got to get past the game they want to put on you and start dealing with our people as people. We need to uplift this boat, man.
Amen.
We need everybody on board. And folks are getting out of prisons, getting out of mental institutions, graduating from college, wherever they're coming from. We got to come together and make a difference in the society and be our own spokespeople for who we are.
Right. And one of the things I know also we're looking at, and I think I really like that when you talk about get rid of the system, period.
That's right.
Because you have a lot of overzealous prosecutors who, and this is one thing that people don't look at, because a lot of times we just look at the long sentences. But you have a lot, when you talk about mass incarceration, you have a lot of people that's just being locked up and sent to prison for a short term, like 8 years, 2 years, 18 months or whatever. But even in that, it comes from overzealous prosecutors that maybe these people shouldn't even been locked up in the first place.
That's exactly correct. That's why you have this mass incarceration.
Exactly. And people just look at the other piece, but a lot of this has to do with, let's just get in prison.
Here they are jumping up and down about Prop 47 because they changed some sentences from a felony to a misdemeanor, which should have never been a misdemeanor in the first place.
Right.
So, they're just trying to go back and correct some mistakes, but, like I say, you got to recognize that. You got to educate people. That person never should have been in prison in the first place. Should have been in rehab, like your relative that you mentioned. Should have been rehabilitation. Alternatives to prison. We don't go there. African Americans and Latinos, you go to prison.
Right.
You got to have a certain. You got to make a certain amount of money to go to treatment centers in lieu of prison.
Right.
We just didn't fit into that particular demographic.
The thing that kind of got me one time is a couple of years ago, I was reading, I don't know if I was reading the news online here locally, that there was a gentleman that frauded and beat people out of a lot of money.
Right.
And he got convicted of 8 to 9 felonies. White guy, and did not do 1 day in jail. They said it'd be better for him to be on the street where he can pay these people back.
That's right. I feel the same way about me.
Yeah. Exactly. Thank you.
Where that bell out? Bell out. You mentioned the bail bondsman and that relationship.
Right.
That wasn't the original structure. Before it used to be that you wouldn't have to place bail. People would go to prison. I mean, people wouldn't have to go to jail. Okay. People would not have to go to jail when they were served a warrant.
Right.
They would. The warrant was for them to go in front of a judge.
Wow.
You know, on a certain date.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That has been. It's called the.
We can go back to that.
The habeas corpus. That's right. And we can go back to that.
Absolutely.
That's what the registration was.
System, yes.
So if a person wanted to leave the country and not go to court, sorry, I'm not paying this. I'm not going to take any chance. And they would leave the country. They would just leave the country.
Oh, okay.
You know, and this is back when folks had property. Folks had owned stuff.
Right.
But they would forfeit their property to the system, and they would leave the country, so everybody wins.
Right.
You know, but you didn't go to, the warden wasn't to pick you up and take you to jail.
Right.
It was to let you know that you had a court date.
Right.
And that system worked. But now, they changed it. They changed it.
And
So
guess, when you talk about changing, guess who changed it? It's these corporations like the bail bonds corporation that's trying to make money. They lobby these politicians to change laws, to force the judge's hand to where they can't do that.
Exactly. So laws can be changed.
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, they'll never change to our benefit. So until we get people in the right places
and get
do the right thing, get involved,
then
we make changes that benefit us.
Yeah. And that's one thing I like about all of us as NON and organizations like PICO. You're up there in Sacramento trying to make that change, talking to legislators and so on, the lawmakers and so on, and sharing the stories to try to change their mindset, to change the situation and so on. So that's really awesome. We have about a minute left. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I just want to say, you know, so many things are happening out here, and this time we as a people have to engage ourselves and find a way to get involved. And you can't. We have to get off the sidelines. You know, don't let people tell you that you're not gonna be able to do nothing, and hear that old rhetoric about black people don't get nothing done and brown people don't get nothing done. I don't believe that. I believe we are all empowered to do something to make a difference in our lives, and not rely on others to do that.
Amen. Well, thank you, Reverend.
Thank you for the opportunity.
On the show.
Appreciate it.
It was a pleasure to have you on. And thank you all listeners for tuning in today. Tune in next week on Sunday at 9 o'clock for another great show. And may you have a blessed week that is coming up. And God bless you. And we'll be back next week.